Have you ever wondered what the largest snake in Earth's history looked like? Not the biggest snake alive today. Not an anaconda. Not a python.
I'm talking about a creature so enormous that if it crossed a modern highway, its body could stretch nearly the entire length of a school bus. A snake so heavy that several adult humans standing together would still weigh less than it. And the most unbelievable part? This wasn't some movie monster, it was real. Millions of years ago, this giant predator ruled the swamps and rivers of South America. Scientists named it Titanoboa, and even today it remains the largest snake ever discovered. But the story of Titanoboa is not just about a giant reptile. It's the story of a lost world. A world so different from our own that it almost feels alien. A world where size meant survival, and where nature created one of the most terrifying predators to ever exist. The story begins in an unexpected place. Not in a jungle, not in a swamp, but inside a massive coal mine in Colombia. The Cerrejón coal mine is one of the largest open-pit mines in the world. Every day, gigantic machines remove layers of rock and earth in search of coal deposits that formed millions of years ago. For most workers, these rocks are simply part of the job. But for paleontologists, they are windows into Earth's distant past. In the early 2000s, researchers studying the mine began finding something unusual. Hidden inside the ancient rocks were fossilized leaves, seeds, and plants. At first, this wasn't particularly surprising. Fossils are discovered all the time. But the deeper scientists looked, the stranger the discoveries became. Soon they began uncovering enormous bones. Bones so large that many researchers initially assumed they belonged to prehistoric crocodiles. And honestly, that assumption made sense. Ancient South America was filled with giant crocodilian predators. If massive bones were being found in an ancient swamp ecosystem, crocodiles seemed like the obvious answer. The fossils were carefully collected and transported for further examination. But when experts began studying them, they noticed something unusual. The shape was wrong. The curvature was wrong. The structure didn't match any crocodile ever discovered. Then came the realization. These weren't crocodile bones at all. They were vertebrae, snake vertebrae, and not just from any snake, from something far larger than anyone thought possible. At that moment, scientists realized they had discovered a creature unlike anything in the modern world. A giant snake that had lived roughly 60 million years ago. A predator so large that it shattered every known record. They named it Titanoboa. And once researchers began calculating its size, the numbers became almost unbelievable. Based on the fossils, scientists estimated that Titanoboa reached lengths of approximately 42 feet. Some studies even suggest it may have grown beyond 45 feet. To put that into perspective, the largest green anacondas alive today rarely exceed 25 feet. Titanoboa was nearly twice as long. Its weight is estimated to have exceeded 1,100 kilograms. That's over a metric ton. Imagine a snake heavier than a small car. Imagine seeing that animal moving silently through dark water. And remember, this wasn't fiction, this was reality. But perhaps the most fascinating question wasn't how large Titanoboa was. The real mystery was how such an enormous animal could exist at all. Today, no snake on Earth comes remotely close to its size. The Amazon rainforest is filled with large snakes. The Congo Basin has giant reptiles. Southeast Asia has massive pythons. Yet none of them approach the size of Titanoboa. Why? The answer lies in biology. Snakes are cold-blooded animals. Unlike mammals, they don't generate significant body heat internally. Their body temperature depends on their environment. The warmer the environment becomes, the more efficiently their metabolism can function. And the more efficiently their metabolism functions, the larger they can potentially grow. This led scientists to a remarkable conclusion. If Titanoboa truly reached the sizes suggested by the fossils, then the world it lived in must have been dramatically warmer than today's Earth. Researchers estimated that average temperatures in Titanoboa's habitat may have been between 30 and 34 degrees Celsius year-round. That's significantly hotter than most modern tropical rainforests. In other words, Titanoboa wasn't simply the product of evolution, it was the product of an entirely different climate, a different Earth. And that's where the story becomes even more fascinating. Because 60 million years ago, our planet looked nothing like it does today. The dinosaurs had recently disappeared. The asteroid impact that ended their reign was still a relatively recent event in geological terms. Nature was rebuilding itself. New ecosystems were emerging. New predators were evolving. And in northern South America, an immense tropical rainforest was beginning to dominate the landscape. There were no polar ice caps, no permanent glaciers. Global temperatures were far higher than they are today. The atmosphere contained enormous amounts of moisture. The air was humid. The forests were dense, and the rivers stretched endlessly through the landscape. For giant reptiles, it was paradise. The fossils discovered at Cerrejón reveal just how extraordinary this ecosystem really was. Scientists found evidence of enormous turtles. Some were so large that a person could practically lie across their shells. Ancient crocodilian relatives thrived throughout the waterways. Massive fish filled the rivers. Everything seemed oversized. It was almost as if nature had turned the size dial all the way up. And standing at the top of this ecosystem was Titanoboa. For years, scientists assumed it hunted like modern anacondas. The theory was simple. Titanoboa would ambush large animals, wrap its powerful body around them, and slowly crush them. But later discoveries complicated that picture. When researchers finally uncovered fossilized skulls belonging to Titanoboa, they gained an entirely new perspective. The skull structure suggested something surprising. Titanoboa may have spent much of its life hunting fish. Huge fish, its anatomy appeared perfectly suited for aquatic environments. This meant Titanoboa was likely less of a land predator and more of a giant river hunter. Imagine standing beside a dark prehistoric river. The water is almost black. Visibility is practically zero. There is no sound except insects and distant animal calls. Beneath the surface, hidden among roots and fallen trees, a 40-foot predator waits motionless. Hours pass, perhaps days. Then a large fish enters the area. Suddenly the water explodes into motion, and within seconds, the prey disappears. That was the world of Titanoboa, a world where monsters were real, but every reign eventually comes to an end. And that brings us to the greatest mystery of all. What happened to Titanoboa? If it was so successful, so powerful, so perfectly adapted to its environment, why did it disappear? Unlike the dinosaurs, Titanoboa wasn't wiped out by a giant asteroid. There was no single catastrophic event, no global apocalypse. Instead, scientists believe environmental changes gradually transformed the world around it. Over time, ecosystems changed. Temperatures shifted, food sources evolved, competition increased. The conditions that had once allowed giant reptiles to thrive slowly began disappearing. And as the environment changed, so did the animals living within it. Eventually, Titanoboa vanished, not just from South America, from the entire planet. Today, all that remains are fossils buried deep beneath the earth, fragments of vertebrae, pieces of skull, ancient clues left behind by a creature that once ruled its world. And perhaps that's the most fascinating lesson hidden within Titanoboa's story. For millions of years, it seemed unstoppable. Nothing could challenge it. Nothing could replace it. Yet even the largest snake in Earth's history could not survive forever. Because in nature, size isn't everything. Power isn't everything. The creatures that survive are the ones that adapt. And if a one-ton snake that ruled an entire ecosystem could disappear without a trace, then perhaps nature is reminding us of something important. No species, no matter how dominant it appears, remains on top forever. Titanoboa once ruled the world. Today it exists only as a memory written in stone, and that may be the most incredible mystery of all.